Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of our Friday noon webinar series. I am Kymara Seals, the Policy Director at the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. We have my co-worker, Kwami Abdul-Bey, who's the Elections Coordinator, and our guest today, who's really not a guest because he's a part of us, Ryan D. Davis, who wears many hats.
The
But
Reverend.
Reverend, that's right, the Reverend Ryan D. Davis. Like I said, who wears a number of hats here in our community and in the state. But he is also a board member of the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. So, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good
Good
afternoon.
I'm ready. I'm excited about this. Today, we are talking about, well, as we know, this is Black History Month, that's celebrated nationwide and in Canada, actually. And we are celebrating 100 years of Black history. And so uh, that's a great milestone. That says a lot about being able to celebrate that as recognized by this country, because we know we're black 365 days out of the year, 7 days a week, right? And we live in it. We are who we are, and we celebrate us all the time. But this is a time where the nation acknowledges the accomplishments and just acknowledge Black history. So we want to get started in this conversation. I'm gonna turn it over to Kwame for maybe a opening thought, and then we're gonna jump in. And kind of what we want to do. We we want this to be more conversational, so it's not an interview. This is a conversation about celebrating 100 years of Black history and why it matters. We want to talk about why it matters that we have this acknowledgement, this celebration uh, within this country. Okay. And let me say that the purpose, when I was doing a little research, the purpose of this is kind of threefold. Let me start there. It's kind of threefold. It's we to highlight the often neglected accomplishments of African Americans. Okay, to fight for the erasure, to fight against the erasure of Black history, and we're gonna have to talk about that because we know this administration is definitely doing that, fighting against the erasure. And so I definitely want us to talk about that. And then to acknowledge systemic racism, because we know systemic racism still exists. It's still prevalent, alive, and well. So that's kind of the framing for this conversation. Um, uh, is those three things. Would you all agree? And
agree.
more. Okay. All right. All right. So having kind of set the framework for why this matters and why we do this work. And again, for those who are listening, we appreciate you all for tuning in, first of all. And if you have, once we get going, if you have questions or comments or thoughts or whatever, put them in the YouTube chat or Facebook, and Heather will make sure we get those questions or comments. So, but anyway, just to kind of recap that, we wanted, this time is set aside to acknowledge the accomplishments that can be often overlooked uh, about for African Americans, and then to fight against the erasure of Black history, and then to acknowledge the systemic racism. So those are kind of 3 points I think we'll focus on. Okay, so Kwame, let me turn it over to you. Where are you?
Okay. First and foremost, I was invited to speak, be a Black History speaker at East Elm High School a couple of weeks ago. and I had one of the students ask me, why did they
Mm-hmm.
pick the shortest month of the year to make it Black History Month? And I had to explain to the young lady that they did not pick February.
Right.
And I had to actually explain how February came into the mix. And in explaining that, uh, yes, we know what we've been taught as far as Carter G. Woodson is concerned, being the founder of Negro History Week. Uh, yeah, there is a lot of truth to that, but there is more backstory to that that we can discuss as well. But even before uh, Negro History Week came into the mix in 1926, 100 years ago, there was an observance that actually started uh, in 1897, and that observance was called Frederick Douglass Day, and it was started by Mary Church Terrell. Mary Church Terrell was a formidable uh, Black activist, suffragist, anti lynching activist who was a contemporary with Ida B. Wells. And her home base was Memphis. And when she taught at a high school, at colored high school in Washington D.C., and from being a teacher became a member of the school board, and in that position she suggested that there be the creation of a Frederick Douglass Day. Frederick Douglass was her mentor. She was his protege, and she wanted a Frederick Douglass Day to not only give the students in that Black school, that colored high school, an opportunity to learn about what he had done and what he had accomplished, but also what uh, other Black people around that time had accomplished, and at the same time, what Black people around the world had accomplished and what Black people specifically in localized DC had accomplished. So I would venture to say that Black History Month began with Frederick Douglass Day back on February 14th, uh,
Mm-hmm.
1897, and it grew into what we know now as Black History Month.
Yeah, and it was also, in addition to Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln got thrown in there in the mix. And I guess he was thrown in there because of freeing the slaves, I guess. I guess.
Yeah, that's an argument that we can have.
But that's really the only thing that makes sense. I've read some things about that, but he was thrown in the mix with Frederick Douglass. So Ryan, let's bring you into the conversation, my friend. Talk to us. What Black
Yeah,
History
I'm
celebrating?
glad. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go
I got
ahead.
excited.
Let's have it.
I'm glad Kwame brought Mary Church Terrell into. I mean,
Uh-huh.
you're talking about a woman who was born before the official constitutional end of uh, of legal slavery in the United States, and then who died the same year as the Brown decision. So you're talking about somebody who bridged a lot of whose life rather bridged a lot of history.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I just think about you talking about Abraham Lincoln. I mean, I think what I have to remind myself is that a lot of Black people still revered Abraham Lincoln as this great emancipator.
Hmm.
A lot of contemporary scholarship that really digs deeply into how Lincoln felt about how Lincoln talked about the inferiority of Black people was not really public knowledge.
Right.
And this is a person who, the first presidential assassination, and so there was a lot of kind of a filial connection to
Okay.
Frederick Douglass on the part of Black people. So, the fact that his birthday is February, that Douglas's birthday, and I think their birthdays are a few days apart or something like that.
Yeah.
Douglas's birthday was in February. I think made that seem like kind of an ideal time. You know,
Right.
to have a week, to celebrate these two very revered figures. I mean, you talk about this happening um, um, uh, at a time, post the post Booker T. Washingtonian times,
Hmm.
when Carter G. Woodson, great scholar, um, founder of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. They changed it to African American now, and who
Right.
really began what I think was, and I say began, and I want to tread lightly there because obviously, of course, he wasn't the first person to really delve deeply into scholarship connected to Black history, Black life, Black sociology, and Black theology. But
Right.
he's really somebody who formalized that study, who institutionalized it, and who really kind of push forward with what has now burgeoned into, a critical mass of scholarship, archival, theoretical, cultural, political, that's committed to preserving and interpreting Black life and all of its complexity. I'll credit Dr. Woodson with that, you
Right.
know, and so, um, you know, I, I I know we all have heard that question. Why they picked the shortest month? They gave us the shortest month. And I'm glad we're able to clarify. Nobody
Right.
gave us February.
Right.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know,
That's exactly what I
nobody
wanted to
gave.
clear up.
There was a purposeful choice around
Right. Right.
the choosing of February. I mean, hindsight being 2020, we might have chose a month like July. It's long and it's warm. A month we can put some on the grill. We can fry some fish out.
Right. Right.
But
Like,
maybe
do
we'll
what we
work on
do.
that
Right. Do what we
in generations to come. And I do want to say this, that you hinted at it, Kymara, when you talked about, and I hope I'm not pushing too far into the conversation,
Oh, you're good.
that there's a really precipitous attack on Black history,
Yes.
on Black life in general.
Right.
And I'm glad that lay historians like myself and real historians stand on the shoulders of folks like Carter Woodson and
Mhm.
those who really formalized the study of the dispensation of and scholarship connected to Black history and life in America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's right.
and to that point, that actually even ties in to where Mary Church Terrell began, and then Carter G. Woodson came in because uh, as a result of the creation of Frederick Douglass Day, uh, Carter G. Woodson, from the scholarship that I have come across, he was motivated to create a Negro history textbook for colored high schools,
Mhm.
and it was distributed throughout the United States in colored high schools, and they were colored high schools were using it. And the story that I have read and from several different reputable sources is that there was one colored high school that had his book, and a white superintendent got a copy of the book and said, "Oh, we cannot have this book in the schools." So they banned his book. And in response to banning his book, he created Negro History Week.
Mhm.
Hmm. That's good. Interesting to know. And let's expound. Let's get into this erasure of Black history, because we're living in a time, and in with this administration, this I guess for clarity, presidential administration. I think everybody know what we mean when we say this administration, but this presidential administration,
We have a
where
copycat gubernatorial administration as
yeah, we
well.
do.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah, yeah, we do. We absolutely do. But I want to talk about the broader federal
Mhm.
presidential administration. So we're seeing all across the nation um, an effort to literally erase our history. We're seeing it, and I don't know how to prioritize this, but we're seeing budgets, federal dollars being cut to places like our museums, Smithsonian museums, and not just that, but information displays literally being shut down and removed from these sacred spaces.
Hmm.
We're seeing that. We're seeing government websites being swiped of
Hmm.
references to Black achievement, African American, Black, Negro, however you feel comfortable saying it. We are seeing the websites being wiped clean of those things, the mentions, the achievements. And it is very unsettling that our government is going through, because they're not finished, is going through these lengths. It's not a surprise to us because in Project 2025, this is the summary, everything we see happening now was predicted to come. Okay. Now I don't want to get into the presidential election, but we saw this coming. But let's talk about just this movement of how they want to erase our culture, our history. Because when I talk to students, and I used to get invited to go into some schools that were predominantly white, but I don't get those invitations anymore, to talk about Black history. And to and usually it was in February that I got invitations to go into the schools. But like I said, those invitations don't come anymore, and we know why they don't come, because uh, so goes the federal. Is what's happening in Arkansas, right, with the Arkansas government, because we have a governor who follows pretty much what comes out of the presidential administration. So we can talk about it right here in Arkansas, how, we see bills that are filed that, one of the bills, and then I'm going to be quiet and kind of pass the baton. But one of the bills we saw in the last legislative session here in Arkansas was a bill called Saving American Government. And I was livid from the time that bill was filed to the time I went and testified. And we did, it was a lot of people showed up and we got the bill killed. But just the audacity of white people, not all white people, these were conservative white people, to have to save American government by removing our ancestors' contributions. So let's talk about what's happening nationwide. And like I said, it's happening right here in Arkansas. What is the threat? That's the question. What is the threat? Why are they doing this? Because it's clearly a threat. Let's talk about it.
It's a threat to the general ego of whiteness.
Mm-hmm.
In America, whiteness being a choice, number one, whiteness being a manufactured identity. You remember
Yes, it
time,
is.
Irish people, Eastern European people, Italian people weren't even white. And, as soon as they got to be white, though, they was white. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And part of that meant, really just a denial of Black humanity and a denial of the capriciousness and the barbarity of white history as it relates to Black people in this country. Yeah, I saw somebody had a T-shirt on that said, "Slavery in America is white history. Resistance, and survival of that evil institution is Black history."
That was my shirt.
Was that?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, that's deep. Okay, okay.
And so, and you think about it, the study, the dispensation of Black history is really, has built, like I said, this kind of critical scholarship mass. I mean, everything from, I'm sorry, I'm getting my thoughts together as I'm talking.
That's fine. Hey, that's good.
And just what we see at the very moment is that historical scholarship has reached an unprecedented depth and visibility. the platforms on which you could, you can now see these things. And I mean, now it also lends itself to a lot of misinformation and disinformation and underinformation. But we really see these renewed attempts to restrict how this history is taught and discussed in official ways. And that tension tells me something important. It tells me that Black history is powerful,
Right.
but it also tells me that America is still into mythologizing itself. And if Black history was ceremonial, nobody would feel threatened.
Right.
So,
Right.
We're at this 100-year mark, and we're not really celebrating the calendar observance. We're honoring, this consistent historical moment.
Yes.
That Black people have lived in, and I think it underlies a couple of things. On the one hand, I am of the mind that we are invested in the system vis-a-vis our tax dollars, and the fact that if anybody has earned the right to claim a piece of this rock called America, Black people in America have
Yes.
having fought so vociferously and physically for it. And we just have that right. And so I think we have a right to make a demand to our government that we use the public funds in the imagining of history in ways that reflect our reality.
Yeah.
I think we have to make that demand. We have to demand that. But I also think that here is a moment where our historically Black colleges and universities, Black church communities, Black presses, Black civic organizations, we have to serve as better custodians, better stewards, and better interpreters of our collective history, because we can't allow in this moment for our history to just be archived and set aside.
Right.
And so I think here's a moment where we need to be talking about Black independent institutions doing more to archive history, to interpret it, to teach it, and to pass it forward. And that's why I think the museum in Detroit, the name of which I apologize, I can't remember, a magnificent place, the Sable in Chicago, name a few independent Black history spaces.
Right.
Their importance is outmoded right now, and I hope we can support them, as a way to countervail this attempt to deny the existence of things that literally happen.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good point. It would be good if we could get a list of these independent spaces, museums, historical places, so that we can make sure that we support them. I know Roland Martin at one point had started, and he may have a list, but had done some shows around independent museums and historical places that need to be preserved. Yeah, but like you said, Ryan, our tax dollars, we have a right to demand our tax dollars to preserve that history, that culture, so generations can go. And there's got to be something, because I remember when the president went through some of the spaces. I guess they just want to be in denial. And one of the commentaries I've heard was that those places were so real that you have grandparents and great grandparents who are living now, who were a part of that, treatment towards African American community. And they surely don't want their grandkids asking them about that part of their life, right?
But can I just add this last thing to say that just one last thing, but also just that it's not, this is not new. This is not some sort of new attack,
right?
It's I think we're quite aware that that white backlash to Black advancement in any sphere is cyclical. Anytime it happens, there's a type of backlash. And I mean, and part of it is that America, white America in particular, is anti contradiction. They don't like to really be thoughtful about America's contradictions. They've been so tricked into the okie-doke about what America is, this great beacon on the hill, that they're blinded to to the fact that America represents one of the biggest contradictions in human history. You know,
Yes.
but like I said, you look all the way back, you know, Reconstruction ends at the, you know, at the top of the 1880s, I guess, maybe the bottom of the 1870s, to be more correct. And so you see Southern governments really trying to reshape the narrative around, you know, what happened less than a generation ago. You know, so
Yeah.
you start seeing books about the, you know, so then you get the emergence of the lost cause. You know, so you get that lost cause mythology and groups like
United
the
Daughters of the Confederacy.
Hello, you hear what I'm saying? The United Daughters of the Confederacy, who spent more money on statues than they did on anything good in their entire existence. And you know,
hey, statues and textbooks.
oh, yeah, indeed, yep.
They
More
actually
importantly,
are the authors of a lot of the textbooks coming out of Texas.
A damn shame.
Yep.
And so, you know, between that and just the erasure of, I think about the fact that my grandfather said he never knew until he was an adult that there were black legislators.
Oh wow!
You know, in the so-called Reconstruction South. So I mean, just like the very evident erasure of those things. I mean,
Yeah,
so we're in another cycle of white backlash against reality.
Right.
One thing that I want to bring up in response to your question, Kymara, is you know, I lived in Philadelphia, and I was there during the time that the city of Philadelphia put up the monument at George Washington's home that the Trump administration took down recently. So I actually was there, and I participated, but I had a minor role, but participated in, you know, making sure that that history was preserved. Attorney Michael Cord was really the leader of that movement, and to see that depiction of the contradiction that Ryan is talking about being removed really landed on me hard, because I was part of putting it up. But I really love, just this past week, the federal judge who ordered that it be put back up. And her opinion actually talked about this erasure, and talked about this great replacement theory that we're dealing with in this time. You know, and it deals with the creation of whiteness that Ryan was talking about, and trying to preserve that creation. You know, from a standpoint, from my understanding, that, you know, without the creation of whiteness, there would be no need for quote unquote Black history. We would just be talking about history. Now that we have this creation of whiteness and this concept of whiteness that, you know, might makes right, and the idea that we will use force and violence to do what we need to do, how we need to do it, and to whom we need to do it with, and us being able to, you know, recount what actually happened, so that we can get a better understanding of where we are today.
Right.
That's the central problem that we're dealing with right now, with these textbooks being these courses and textbooks being taken out of schools today, these monuments being removed and being rewritten and everything. It's a whole concept of literally trying to ensure that white history is not told.
Right. Because white history is ugly, y'all.
White history is ugly, and it's interesting. It's interesting that you brought up the grandparents and the grandchildren.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the co-founder of the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement, and as part of that work that we did, is we would go into the schools and we would talk to um, high school students and connect them with uh, civil rights leaders of that time, and particularly uh, dealing with the Little Rock Nine, and over at Central High School, having the Little Rock Nine come in and do lectures,
Yeah.
and actually sit down with students. And uh, it was so interesting. In one of the sessions that we had, is that there was an actual student, when she was looking through the pictures, she
Hmm.
noticed her grandmother as one of the ones
Wow.
that was taunting one of the Little
Wow.
Rock
That's
Nine.
happening. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
That is starting to happen, and it's just freaking them out. They are afraid. They don't want little Johnny asking, Grandma, what were you thinking?
Yes. And
Yeah.
you
So
look at the makeup of the city council of the city of Little Rock. There
uh-huh.
are two people that currently serve on that council
Uh-huh.
that fall into that
That,
definition.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, it's definitely the white history is ugly in this country. There's no doubt about it.
There was a
Let me ask,
question that
yeah,
came
the
up.
question, and I want I don't know if Ryan, if you can still see that question, but this is a good point. The role of white allies in preserving. Yeah, Bruno asked there the role and responsibility that we think white allies may have in helping to preserve Black history. Okay, considering the time and space that we're living in right now, what do you think, Ryan, would be a message for our white allies? How can they help us preserve Black history?
That they have to understand that this is not just a maybe not just, and I understand and appreciate Bruno's question, but this
Yes.
is not really necessarily a matter of white allyship, not just going along to be helpful,
Yeah.
and to, but that this is about the intellectual survival of all Americans, the
Yeah.
intellectual viability of all Americans. That it is important that white students understand, America in the full panoply of its history. That everybody understand that history that is critical of the way that America idealizes itself is still history. It happened.
Mhm.
It's real, you
Right.
know, and that history as a lie has been weaponized to deny Black humanity, and they have to understand that that's untenable for them as much as it is for us. And
Right.
I think on another level, I do want to lift up. I mean, there are white scholars who have, who I think, maybe if we want to, kind of sectionalize this to be that white people want to look to some white scholars,
Right. Yeah.
lift it up. Black folks like Herbert Aftercare, Leon Litwack, who is historian, who I met, and he signed my book, and I said, you the lynching historian. His
Oh,
book
Mm.
Trouble in Mind really just kind of set me afloat. I mean,
what's his
folks
name
like,
again,
his
Ryan?
name Leon Litwack.
Leon
Yeah,
Litwell.
Litwack. He died a few years ago.
Okay.
But Trouble in Mind, and then Been in the Storm So Long, about the aftermath of slavery in America. I put that right next to Du Bois's Black Reconstruction as one of the most important books about the
Yes.
post-Civil War era and the influence of Black people and Black legislators and Black laborers in that time. People like Howard Zinn, whose People's History of the United States is indispensable. Let me see, folks like Eric Foner. Eric Foner is a popular
Yes.
one. So I mean, like, there's no lack of historical research and dispensation by white scholars out there, and
And
in our race class.
when you bring up Eric Farmer, he was actually the first author to write about the Elaine Race Massacre.
Mm. He
And then
he
you
was.
got Griff Stockley, right? May he
Yep.
rest in peace, from
Yeah,
Arkansas.
Griff
That's
Stockley.
right. That's right.
Griff Stockley studied his work.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh wow, that's interesting. It's interesting. So okay, yeah, that was a good question, and really gives some perspective. because we do have white allies in the movement with us, and I think we talk about also the systemic racism, um, just acknowledging that it still exists. One of the things that people, and when I say people, I mean Black people, African American people, don't understand is that systemic racism is still here. And they don't want me to talk about that in Pine Bluff. They
Mhm.
don't want me to talk about that in Pine Bluff. Uh, and I
Well,
understand why, because it's gonna hit close to home. They gonna, you know
mhm.
what I'm saying? And so there's been a couple of things I wanted to share, but I've had some people say, man, just don't even, don't even go there, Uh,
Well,
everybody ain't ready for that conversation. But
well,
systemic
as far as
racism is still
Bruno's question is concerned, uh, I come from the standpoint of uh, I particularly do not care for people who label themselves as white allies. I don't believe that white allyship is something that is dependable. I look more at white abolitionists.
real. Yeah,
Don't
I
be
can
an
see that.
ally, be an abolitionist, be a John Brown.
Right.
Don't go
But
halfway
yeah,
when it feels good for you and when it's convenient for you. Go
right.
all the way.
What did
Well,
Big
the
Daddy Kane
only
say? Ain't no half stepping.
Ain't no half stepping.
but here's another viewpoint to that. You got to realize everybody's not in the mind frame of being an abolitionist. You know what I'm saying? It's like I look at some of the work I do as an activist. Folk ain't gonna, I've had some issues in Pine Bluff where I had to be an activist, and it was Black folk on the other end of that. You know what I'm saying? And then there were people who supported it, but they're not activists. You see what I'm saying? So I hear what you're saying, Kwame. Just
Well, I mean, an
but
abolitionist.
is there a role for white allyship for those who can't be an abolitionist? Is there a role?
Um,
Kwame says no.
no, I don't know. I particularly do not know how I can differentiate. If uh, for me, when someone comes up to me and asks, how can I be a white ally? And then I say, my response is, you can have an abolitionist mindset and you can act on that abolitionist mindset and use your power and position to ensure that all humans, no matter how they look or no matter how they identify, are given the same resources and rights that everyone else has without exception. And
Mhm.
that's, in my mind, is an abolitionist mindset.
I
Uh,
got you. That makes sense.
me, when I hear allyship, I hear, okay, it's sunny outside, it's not raining, so I'll
It's
go out and
convenient.
join them while I'm on my lunch
Yeah,
break.
it's
But
convenient.
that's my
I hear
definition.
you. No, no, no. I hear you. And I've had these conversations with people before. And I just wanted to bring that up because I know, people ask that. And I think it's good for just the conversation overall. So, Ryan, you have any thoughts on that? Allyship and abolitionists?
You know, I just want to reemphasize that you know I think could think of some practical ways. I looked at the African American Studies class at the AP African American Studies class at Central. Spoke to them a couple of weeks ago, and uh, give or take two or three non-black people, they were all black kids. And so
Hmm.
I remember the response to there was a pretty loud response to the idea that they were going to not allow AP African American Studies to be included in Arkansas high schools, and a lot of people responded to that. But there was no subsequent sign up of their kids for the class, though.
Ah, yeah.
There you go. There you
I got
go.
you.
There you go.
So
I hear both of you.
yeah,
Not
And that
not
makes
only
sense.
that
Well,
is in the in the same legislative session that they were trying to make this African American AP studies illegal practically, in that same legislative session, they were propping up the Holocaust education.
Mm,
So I'm like, okay,
you're
you're
right.
quiet here, but you
Yeah.
support here. So that
Yeah.
for me, that's allyship, is when you get to pick and choose.
I see.
Abolitionists,
Yeah.
you can't pick and choose. You
You're
there.
either there or you're not.
And
Right.
we need white as well as black legislators to come out against, there's multiple states have this what they call divisive concepts legislation.
Okay.
And
Yes.
we know
Yeah.
what that means. I mean,
Well, yeah.
it's a dog. It ain't even dog whistles, dog holler. Uh, you know,
A
and
dog holler.
basically anything that puts whiteness as it is lived out in America in a particular light is considered divisive.
Yeah.
And and um, it's we need more legislators
We
to
do.
come out and we need more people talking to their legislators,
Right.
to come out against those, to these
Exactly.
so-called divisive consequences. So, I mean, something more than kind of standing behind the black folks and saying, yeah, way to say that. I mean, a little
Yeah.
bit more activity.
I got you. I got you. So Tamika has asked a good question, and we're seeing this. We're seeing this, and we've actually heard this out of this presidential administration. The term reverse racism is being used.
Lord.
Check this out, implying that Black Americans can be characterized as racist. Where is this language coming from? And I will say, I just thought about this. It's kind of like um, when your president said or made the comment that the passage of the Civil Rights Act hurt white people.
Mhm.
Like, really? Now, nothing that comes out of his mouth surprises us, right? I mean, we're not shocked, we're not surprised, we're disappointed, but we're not shocked and we're not surprised, okay? But he did make that comment somewhere that and I'm sure he really believes that, which is part of his reasoning for removing DEI in all of federal programs and schools and anything federal, removing the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So going to Tamika's comment about the reverse discrimination, can African Americans be racist?
That's such a tired term. I mean, this is a 60 or so year old term that it was part of one of those consistent waves of white backlash against assumed black progress that happened at the end of the 60s going into the 70s. The
Mhm.
idea that having programs to correct centuries of white supremacist policymaking, de jure and de facto in this country, that somehow is removing restrictive covenants from a neighborhood was called reverse racism.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
now you're making me have to sell my house. So like, right? I mean, it's such a silly thing. I don't take it serious. I don't know that it's meant to be taken serious. These people cannot be serious when they talk about these things, because you have to be completely ignorant and devoid of historical reality
Right.
to say something like that. I mean, the idea that, and it's very reactionary. White supremacy is itself reactionary.
Yeah, it
It
is.
has no real foundational basis. I mean, it's cringe, as the kids say. And it's used. I mean, we talk about this reverse racism to describe prejudice or discrimination against white people because of what they assume to be unearned black advancement. So it's also
Mhm.
insulting.
It is. It's very insulting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
I
I know.
of the many things out of this particular administration and the copycat administrations
Yeah.
that I wouldn't pay attention to. I don't pay attention to the very idea of reverse racism.
Yeah.
I mean, and also too, what I'm saying, my definition of racism is a power concept, and I know we all know about that. And,
Yes.
so
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let
Absolutely.
me give you a personal example of how silly that is.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan spoke about uh, when I was when I was attending the United States Air Force Academy. I got together a lot of the black fellow cadets and began teaching them about the Tuskegee Airmen because that was not taught at the academy at the time, but to teach these fellow cadets who many of them had never even heard of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Mm.
And I got literally charged with reverse racism because I was doing that. Uh,
Mm.
to
You're
even to
kidding.
Yeah, oh no, I am not kidding
Reverse
you.
racism
This
because
was
you were teaching history?
Yes, yes,
Oh my gosh.
yes, because I was teaching about the Tuskegee Airmen. And the funny thing about it is that movement that I started, it caused them to include the Tuskegee Airmen in future classes at the Air Force Academy.
Mm.
But that action was actually just reversed by the Trump administration
Yeah.
last year, where they're no longer allowed to teach about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Right.
So, so the question that I would have for Tamika is: Was I a racist because I taught about the Tuskegee Airmen at the Air Force Academy?
Well, what it
can I
is,
put a fine point on how silly
How
how
silly it
silly
is, right?
reverse racism has been weaponized. You all remember
it is.
Fisher versus the University of Texas back in 2010 or so, something like that. And she was kind of leaning on the back of decision. Now this is Abigail Fisher, whose academic qualifications were already considered low by the standards of the University of Texas. But she
Mhm.
was saying that there were Black and Hispanic students who were admitted ahead of her, and she didn't care about the fact that there were 47 white students with similar grades, and 42 of them were admitted.
Mm.
She just made the assumption that, well, all these other qualifying factors notwithstanding, I was discriminated against as a white person. And so you're talking
Yes.
about, the mediocrity and of whiteness. I mean, we see it in the White House. I mean,
You
um,
can you say that again? Use that word two more times.
the
Mediocrity. Keep
mediocrity,
saying.
the utter, the slobbing mediocrity, the sloppy mediocrity of whiteness in their challenge against Black advancement. It's really a sad thing to see. I mean, you have probably the most mediocre, unqualified person at the helm of this nation right now,
Right.
and black people could and certainly would not ever put up somebody like that, you know,
Hmm.
put up a candidate like that to run for president. And you know, Abigail Fisher, she didn't qualify for the top 10% plan. She didn't qualify. So there were Black students who got, if you were a class president, or excuse me, a student body president, they gave you extra points for admission. And so she challenged the idea that some of those students, because they had grades or test scores marginally lower than hers, that they just got in because they were Black. And so I mean, like, that's kind of the crux of reverse racism. It is unmerited whining by mediocre people.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's good. I like that. I hope everybody listen to that and take note, because it is literally the most ridiculous thing. I had someone make reference to that, and this was a Black lady, and I just wanted to say, "You idiot," but apparently
But you did.
I didn't. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. No,
Sometimes.
no, no, no. Sometimes you need to. It's like, no, let me explain. So yeah, that's so yeah, this
Sometimes
is
I'm unfiltered, so I would have said it.
yeah, I have. Well, here's the thing, Kwame. There are moments where I am unfiltered, but I really try. I really, really try to be filtered and to be respectful, because everybody doesn't know. They just don't know. Everybody don't read and study, and they just don't know, right? So I get it. I get it. So um,
But one thing that Ryan brought up, which is actually very telling. Uh, when you talk about Black history, and you see examples of this all throughout the study of Black history, is uh, and it. I'm sure both of you were raised in a household like I was raised in. I was raised in a household where I was told to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to come home with an A. I had to have an A plus. Why did you
Know
not
about
do the
that.
extra credit? There was no extra credit. Why did you not ask for extra credit? So when you look at those opposing viewpoints on who is eligible and credentialed enough to be the president, you look at uh,
Mhm.
or two people who were non-white. One got in, one did not get in, but both of them had such stellar uh,
Mhm.
occupational, educational backgrounds and experience. Uh, and then you put that up against others who they don't have to do that.
Mhm.
We have to do
We
that
have to. Yeah.
because
Yes.
of this concept of
Yeah.
white, I call it a white priority complex.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people call it white supremacy, but still the same centering whiteness
Yeah.
as Bruno talked about earlier. And as long as the concept of whiteness is centered, then you have it where people who are non white have to be twice as good
Hmm.
and run twice as long and jump
Yeah.
twice as high.
Ah, yeah, yeah. I grew up hearing that, and I've said that to my children. They're
I say
both
it to
young.
my son now.
Yeah, they're both young, and I say it to my grandson. I know both of
Mhm,
you. We all have we all have fifth graders. Both of you have fifth graders, but I
yeah.
have a fifth grade grandson.
Mhm,
But we do. We have to say that to them. We have to encourage them, support them. But this next person may not do it who don't look like you, but you got to do it twice as bad, twice as good. Yeah. So we do. So let me kind of shift, and we appreciate the couple of comments that we've got. And we hope this conversation is inspiring to the viewers, or we've said something that you can go back and pick up and research, because we want you to be inspired. We're happy to be able to talk about 100 years celebrating Black history and some of the challenges that we have. But I do want to ask this question because I don't see any more questions in the chat. If possible, and I'm gonna share mine too. Do you have a main pioneer of the past that you would share? I know it may be hard to narrow it down to one. Um,
hmm.
give it some thought. I'll share mine. Oh, I don't know if I could share one. Man, I set myself up, didn't I? Oh man, it's so many. I guess maybe we'll do our top two. Okay,
Hmm.
I'll do it like this. I'm gonna share. Okay, from the movement, I would say Harriet Tubman, and from the early 1900s, I would say Shirley Chisholm. And let me tell you why I choose those two. Harriet Tubman, we know her history was phenomenal. Uh, just the idea how she used the Underground Railroad to free slaves is phenomenal to me. It is, and the fact that it is documented and it's told through history that she did not lose a single slave. She carried those people to freedom in that process. Now, I understand she had some help.
Hmm.
I understand she carried a shotgun. Um, but she did something that, and I know, I mean, these were people I've read who wanted to be free. Okay. These are people who wanted to be free. And I also understand the mentality that I've read. that she could have freed a lot more people had they known they were slaves. But it's
Mm.
the mentality, okay? And there's so much I could say on the mentality because I see it today in our people we know in today's society, that people who don't realize certain things about our heritage, and who don't acknowledge the reality of the world we live in, who think they have it made and they're not concerned about anybody else, as if they have arrived, so to speak. And my other one would be Shirley Chisholm, just because of the political, I mean, of course, the first Black woman to run for president, and just all of her accomplishments in the political arena, the policy, and paving the way for people like me. Although I have no ambition to run for a political office, definitely not president of the United States, but paving the way for African American women all across the country, and just taking a stand against black and white who weren't on the right side of history. The idea that she was unbought and unbossed is just you know a motto I've adopted. And on the end of that I put unbothered.
Mm.
So anyway, those would be my two pioneers I would have to lift up as sheroes, I guess you could say, in my book. Thoughts on yours?
Um, well, the, I have three names. The first name that I have to say is because he's a recent ancestor, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson,
Yeah.
and I say him uh, selfishly because he was a mentor of mine. Every time he came to Little Rock, me and him hung out. He was actually in Little Rock four times over the last 6 years. So I have to say him because I have a
Sure.
selfishness. But
Yeah.
at the same time, when we think about Carter G. Woodson and what Carter G. Woodson was attempting to do when he set up Negro History Week, what he was looking to do is he was looking to make sure that, yes, we do recognize these national names like Harriet Tubman or Jesse Jackson, but we also look at what's going on locally, who is doing things locally.
Mhm.
So my two names are local. My other two names are local. Nelson Hatchett. Nelson Hatchett is someone that you all need to study. Nelson Hatchett, out of what we now know as Fayetteville. He was a, a brother who had been enslaved, and he self-liberated. And when you talk about Harriet Tubman, this brother self-liberated by stealing a horse and riding the horse all the way to Canada,
Mm.
out of Fayetteville. And matter of fact, there is a street in Fayetteville that's named after him.
Okay.
So that's, and then my other one would be Scipio Africanus Jones. And that's a little bit selfish as well because somehow I'm related to him. I don't know how, but somehow I'm related to him. But Scipio Africanus Jones was one of the premier legal minds here in
Mhm.
the state of Arkansas in the early 1900s. And he is connected with so many powerful legal decisions. The one that is most important to all of us is in his process of getting the brothers and sisters who had been uh, incarcerated after the Elaine Race massacre. His case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and in that decision, the Supreme Court affirmed the right of all Americans to have due process.
Mhm.
And that case is the case that still today all courts rest on as far as due process is concerned.
Awesome. Ron?
I'm going to begin with Ida B. Wells Barnett,
All
somebody
Mhm.
right.
whose
Yeah.
name is mentioned a lot, but she doesn't get a lot of real credit for,
Yeah.
for who she was. And who was she? She was a pioneering investigative journalist.
Yeah.
She
Yes.
She was awesome.
damn near invented the discipline of investigative journalism.
Yes, she
Yes.
did.
Pioneering
Yes.
against lynching. Her book, The Red Record, still exists today. And,
Yes.
it's one of those books, mind you, that was being questioned on the shelves of the Black Smithsonian.
Oh, wow.
They don't want you to know about the Red Record in America.
Okay.
She's somebody who was left out of the narrative when we talk about the institution building as far as Black civil rights organizations in the first part of the 20th century. And somebody who Barbara Ransby, who is a great historian, wrote a book called A Sword Among Lions.
Yes.
It's a thick
Yes.
book,
Yeah.
but it's a great biography of Ida B. Wells Barnett and her life, and really also opened my eyes to a lot of who she was outside of what I knew.
Right.
And then I would have to say, can I do a combo? I
Sure.
want to
Sure.
combo Ella Baker
Ah.
and Fannie Lou Hamer.
Oh,
They,
Fannie Lou is one of mine
yeah,
too, for sure.
they represented two
Woo!
very different kind of upbringings. I mean, if
Yes,
you
they
listen to
did.
Ella Baker and you listen to Fannie Lou Hamer, they sound completely different.
Yeah.
Ella Baker, even though she was from the Carolinas and educated at Shaw, she had this very kind of clipped way of talking. And
Uh-huh.
she's important to me because she really underlined how important it is to hand things down.
Mm,
Yes.
She's an
Yes.
embodiment of that great adage that the youth can run faster, but the elders know the way.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
that she she was really kind of the promulgator, the one who kind of to push the formation of an independent student-led organization. She warned them, don't become a youth auxiliary for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
There you go.
Saying
Sick.
you all have the right and the power to do your own thing.
Mm.
And she says something that I have to remind myself of, and that I like to repeat. Strong people don't need strong leaders. The very
Yep.
idea that you can't get invested in singular messianic leadership, that you forget that you also have the capacity as a person to get out here and to do the same kind of work. And
Yeah.
Fannie Lou Hamer was a recipient of that great legacy. Here's somebody you know who had suffered so much capricious white supremacist racism in her life,
Mm.
just for no reason at all, that she could very well have just given up, but she didn't. She didn't just stop at voting rights. She didn't
Right.
just stop
Yeah.
at running for elective office. She was a Pan-Africanist after she visited I think, oh goodness gracious, I keep wanting to say Sekou Touré. Yeah, Sekou Touré in West Africa. She
Hmm.
was a union organizer. She organized, folks who
Yeah.
were working in the burgeoning catfish industry.
Mhm.
She was an institution builder, tried her damnedest to have a collective farm. Didn't really come to fruition. We're a little too capitalist for all that, I guess. Even the black folks down there wasn't with it. And, she really, 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 you know, was a very naturalistic political force in her own area, and
Sure.
underlined the importance of doing the work where we are,
Yeah.
casting down buckets, if you will, and doing the work where we are. And you
Yeah.
said I can do three. Okay, great, thank you.
Damn
Yeah,
it.
and the third is, and I was glad. The third is not a new person. I just want to say that I was glad when Kwame said it. I just want to say that Jesse Jackson's 1984 and 1988
Mhm.
DNC speeches really set a tone that I
Yeah.
feel like the Democratic Party has failed to pick up. In
Oh,
some ways.
absolutely. Yeah, I
Yes.
agree.
That he built that coalition. Jesse Jackson was going out visiting AIDS clinics,
Mhm.
when it was taboo, when it was still being talked about as a
Yes.
Right.
skin disease.
That's right.
He was out there visiting farmers and bringing together farm workers and
Yes.
like Jesse Jackson has had a really fascinating and multifaceted. And like I say, I think he's gotten lost in this caricature of who he is.
Mm.
Hmm.
That I am all for reclaiming the Jesse Jackson who stood up and watched stacks and said, "What time is it?" It's
Yeah.
nation
Yes, nation time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know something, Ryan. I actually will be spotlighting him on my show this weekend.
Awesome.
So
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
you'll
He
really
was
love it. Uh,
he
but
Go ahead. Go
what I
ahead.
wanted to say, wrapping this up, because I know we have to,
Yeah, we are wrapping up.
is
Right.
when Ryan brought in his twofer, I saw you squeeze in two, so you
Yeah,
actually
he
had
did the
four, Ryan.
combo. Yeah. Now I
So
feel bad. I didn't get to do
yeah. So
Penny
when you
Blake.
talk about Ella Baker,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah,
talk about
Ryan, he got
SNCC,
us, didn't he?
allowing, you also have to talk about SEPTA A. Clark.
Uh-huh.
But the thing I want to talk
Yeah.
about as far as what those two women did is,
Yes.
because of them, we have our freedom schools,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where we teach Black history to our children, where
Yeah.
Black churches were teaching Black history
That's right.
to our children. And then
Absolutely.
we also have our citizenship schools from SEPTA A. Clark, where we were not only teaching Black history, but also teaching how to be a citizen, how to vote, how to go to city hall meetings
Mm-hmm.
to our adults. So
Yeah. Yeah.
one thing that we can do, and one thing that white allies, our white abolitionists can do, is in this day and time, we need freedom schools and we
Yeah.
need citizenship schools,
Yeah.
and we need our white allies and our white abolitionists to fund them and make and protect them.
Yeah. That's good. Hey, that's a good call to action.
There you go.
That's a good call to action. So this has been great. Thank you for that comment, Duran. Miss Williams, Elaine.
Yes.
Keeping the conversation going. Absolutely. Absolutely, y'all. This has been great. We could keep going, but we are past the hour, and so we just hope people will be inspired and do your research on some of these names we've called if you don't know, and yeah, just be inspired. Let's be great. Let's continue the conversations. There's so much more we could say along these lines. But thank you so much, you all, the audience, for joining us on YouTube, on Facebook. And like I said, this has been great. This has been great. Thank you, Ryan, for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you. It's been a good conversation.
Yeah, I think that's it. Anything else? We got to get out of here. We good?
Yeah.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.